London calling YouTube, London calling everyone. And tonight I'm once again joined by Gunderson, hello.
Oi oi.
And Vil.
Hello again.
And now we have a story linked in the description. This is Eddie Izzard in the Mirror. There have been a few things recently about poverty in Britain, and I think the question here is, why does, or how have we got to the point where the sixth richest country in the world is having to hand out 1 million food parcels to its poorest citizens? Gunderson?
Well, I reckon it's basically because our current government was largely elected on the issue of austerity and promises to cut public spending in order to try and balance the deficit, which is not necessarily bad at face value. But the thing is, it's targeted the welfare state so disproportionately and not other things. I mean, it's not like they haven't cut anything else. The military budget's also been cut. But the thing is, it didn't have to target the infrastructure that helps keep poorer people, out of debt and out of homelessness. But it really has. That's basically been the result. Especially with what's been called the bedroom tax. That's more what the opposition has called it. That's not what it's officially known as. I think the official name is the spare room subsidy or some shit. But
Right.
But yeah, basically it's a thing where they if you have a certain number of bedrooms that you don't need, then, and there's a certain criteria for what counts as needing it, then they cut your council benefits by a certain amount. If it's one extra bedroom, it's 10%, and if it's two, it's 15%, I think. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, basically, it's for people living in council houses, which is basically, I'm not sure what the equivalent would be in America, but basically it's a house that working class families live in that's provided for them by the local council until they can afford somewhere better that they actually own. And basically, yeah, a lot of people can't afford to pay the rent because of they've had their benefits slashed, and so because of that, a lot of people can't afford to eat. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it relevant rather than just soapboxing here. Yeah. So because poorer people are having the welfare they receive cut because they're a bunch of classist cunts, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Then basically they can't afford to eat as much, and therefore they have to rely on food banks and the like in order to be able to just to live, essentially, which is very sad indeed for a developed first world country.
Yeah, I read something that Boris Johnson's, to explain, Boris Johnson is the mayor of London, and once referred to £250,000 a year salary as quote-unquote chicken feed. That's the mayor of a city in which people are starving, and £250,000, which isn't even all he gets when you consider everything. Chicken feed. His sister went on some reality show where posh people have to live among the poorest people, where, like, they're literally, I think, you could be living on, or trying to live on, like, I can't remember what was ridiculously, small, like a family trying to live on £1 a day. And she would normally just £1, wouldn't even normally buy her a coffee. And I'm sort of thinking, and she did change her perspective a lot after being on the show. So I think, why isn't the mayor himself trying to live like this? And yeah, the whole thing can be summed up as Tory scum, which obviously, for people who don't know, that's Boris Johnson to a T, is Tory scum, just as David Cameron is Tory scum. So that's
George Osborne, Tory
and
scum.
Tory scum. Yeah. So yeah, short answer, Tory scum. Obviously, this is a British story, but a universal kind of problem right now, Vil. Your perspective?
Hold on. Just one thing before Vil speaks. I thought I remember reading something about someone going on some show to live among the poor people. I thought maybe I'm confusing this with something else due to bad memory, but I thought basically she responded with, "Oh, look at the plebs" or something. Am I confusing this with something else?
I think that might have been her attitude initially. I think she made some insensitive comments about, my God, they're living like animals.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking of then.
Right, but I think that may have been sort of taken the wrong way, but she was sympathetic afterwards, is the point that she did once you've tried living on a quid a day. So yeah, that was my understanding from what I can remember. I could also be suffering from bad memory, but my point would still be, why is it his sister? Get the millionaire Boris Johnson to have to live on a quid a day. But Bill?
Just so I can get a bit of perspective, would a quid a day be kind of like the equivalent of someone here trying to live on $1 a day?
A bit more than $1, $1.50.
Okay.
Something.
So yeah, same basic ballpark range then. Yeah, I'd have to have heard her, and that's the whole thing. I don't really pay enough attention to politics over there. I probably should, but it sounds to me like she was trying to say that it's an appalling condition and people took it as her calling them animals. Again, this is me hearing it from the outside. There's not much that I can really contribute to this.
Okay, well, I mean, did you see any that kind of, I mean, because the situation isn't so different in the US, is it?
Oh, no, we've got a lot of stuff like that going on over here all of the time. And the thing is, this country has a very far right and a very far left, extreme on both ends. On one hand, you've got one side that wants to basically try socialism and we give everything to everybody, and the people that make everything have to pay everybody else. And then on the other side of things, you've got these people that think that everybody who is on the dole is there because they're just lazy. And yeah, there are a lot that are, but that lot that are still a minority. And there's very few. I shouldn't say that there's very few people that see the whole picture of this, but there's very few people in a position to make a damn bit of difference that do. So what it really becomes here in this country at the end of the day, and again I'm speaking only for America because I don't really know how things work there, outside of here I should say, is its political theater to get votes. At the end of the day, the fate of all of these people who are starving is nothing more than election fodder. And that's just wrong.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's sadly in the UK there are a lot of people who agree with these kinds of measures, austerity and whatnot, because they don't understand what it's like to be poor, or they think, as a friend I told to fuck off a few weeks ago said, that poor people, and this is especially fucked up considering he used to be poor himself. He used to be, as he described poor people in general, as dole-dossing drug addicts.
Right.
And he said, I used to be one myself, and I managed to pull my way out of the shitter, so there's no reason everybody else can't. Well, yeah, that's fine. I'm glad it worked for you, but not everybody else has the same abilities that you do. So yeah, and the funny thing is, he's also one of those fuck actually giving a shit about politics people.
Right.
He's like, I pay my taxes and that's good enough for me.
Right. Great.
Anyway, that's that's really all I have to say. Yeah, the yeah, that's sadly a lot of people here have these kinds of classist attitudes.
The scapegoating of the poorest people in a time of economic crisis.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, just as people think that there's a lot more foreign aid than there actually is, and just as it's... unfortunately, we can't... whether scapegoating is contrived or whether it just kind of happens naturally, it's always got to be some other. It's got to be some other group that isn't you are causing the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. And if we're not careful... we'll get another term of, well, maybe not condemn, but another term of, well, Tory scum. Any closing thoughts, Phil?
Not really. I've said all that I really can on the issue.
Okie dokie. Shall we move on to the next topic?
Sounds good.
I will say, I don't think I'm not entirely convinced that they'll win. But what is going to happen, I really can't say. I'm quite concerned about UKIP, though. That is concerning.
It does, yeah.
And it's not just the Tories who are losing votes to UKIP. Like, the Labour Party is also losing votes, and I think they're grossly underestimating how unpredictable their working class voters are.
The impression I got recently was that the Conservatives are definitely losing more votes to UKIP than anybody else, which would be great if the right are divided. That's great, but sorry, carry on.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think the Tories are probably losing more votes to UKIP than Labour, but the thing is, we can't. It's more dangerous because we expect it from the right wing of the Tory party. And we don't. And the thing is, as I said, with working class Labour voters, it's more dangerous because they're more unpredictable, especially since they largely feel, justifiably or not, like the party's abandoned them. Since Tony Blair took over.
Yeah.
And Ed Miliband basically has the charisma of a damp dishcloth.
Yeah, people will vote for Miliband not because he's good, but because everybody else is so crap. I mean, Cameron seems to be losing his marbles. And as for Farage and his clowning around on Have I Got News For You, and the ridiculous things that some of the candidates they've had have been ludicrous, so ludicrous they've had to get rid of them. The homophobia, and now this nonsense about taking the vote away from the unemployed. Did you see that?
Nope.
Oh, I'll link you and maybe put the link in the description. Where surely, apart from anything else, UKIP can't look electable. I mean, you'd have to be mad to think that they could form a government anyway.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's still a concern, certainly, because the thing is, in a constituency near me, a couple of years ago, there was it's still a strong Labour safe seat, but the thing is, UKIP got 20, I think it was 1 or 3% of the vote, and in fact, no, and also the third highest was the BNP with only 8%, luckily, and that was actually only 0.1% ahead of the fourth one, which was the Respect Party, or George Galloway's party. So they're also cunts as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, basically it is a concern because they're getting quite a lot of votes in by-elections. They're coming like second in a lot of by-elections, especially in Labour seats.
Okay, so that's it for tonight. So, good night from me, Alex, and a good night from Gunderson.
Good night.
And a good night from Vil.
Good night.
Okay, ta-ta, internets.